Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the mental health and personality factors that may be at work in the case of Timothy Treadwell. Treadwell was the subject of a documentary titled Grizzly Man that was released in 2005. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll look at the background of Timothy Treadwell, then I'll move to the mental health and personality factors. So starting with the background, Treadwell was born on April 29, 1957, on Long Island, New York. He had 4 siblings. He was described as an ordinary young man. He earned B's in school. He loved animals and had a squirrel named Willie as a pet. He was an accomplished diver for his high school swimming team. After graduating, he moved to Long Beach, California, where he started using alcohol and cannabis. He told people there he was from Australia, and apparently he spoke with an unconvincing accent. He was described as fearless as well. He started going to college and working in a restaurant. At some point, he dropped out of college. He allegedly tried out for the role of Woody Boyd on the television series Cheers. He wasn't selected for that role, and this was devastating to him. At some point, he started using heroin and cocaine in addition to alcohol. He said he had a near-fatal overdose. He decided to go to Alaska and watch bears. He would do this over the course of 13 summers. He would usually spend the early part of each summer camping in Hollow Bay. He would spend the later part of the summer in an area he referred to as the Grizzly Maze, near Kaflia Bay. He had a reputation for getting close to the bears, touching them, and playing with bear cubs. He was repeatedly cited by the National Park Service for breaking a number of rules. He accumulated 6 violations between 1994 and 2003, like camping in the same place for too long, running tours without a license, harassing wildlife, improperly storing food, and getting into conflicts with visitors. He was told several times that his life was in danger, but he refused to carry any weapons. He wouldn't even carry bear spray. He said he would never use a weapon against a bear, even if it was to defend his own life. He claimed that bears were misunderstood. He maintained this belief that he had established a relationship with the bears that involved trust and respect. Most of the time, Treadwell went on these trips alone, although on occasion he would be accompanied by various women. For the last 2 summers, his girlfriend Amy Huguenard was with him for a few of the weeks. She was a physician assistant. Treadwell, now 46 years old, and Huguenard, 37 years old, were dropped off by airplane in the Katmai National Park in late September 2003. Treadwell camped in this area later in the year than he normally would. This was during a time when grizzly bears become more aggressive as they're trying to put on fat before hibernation. His campsite was located near a stream where grizzly bears were known to feed at this time of the year. He stayed this long because he wanted to locate a specific female brown bear who was his favorite. His girlfriend was not happy with this decision because she was afraid of bears. So perhaps going out in the wilderness and being close to bears wasn't a great idea for her. Because it was so late in the year, the bears that Treadwell believed that he knew, like the ones with whom he claimed he had a relationship, were already hibernating, and other bears that he did not know were wandering into the area. On October 5, 2003, Treadwell used his satellite phone to contact a pilot to pick him up the next day. He also talked to an associate sometime around noon, but made no mention of bear problems. On October 6, the pilot arrived at the campsite. He started to make his way to camp. He was about 3/4 of the way up the trail, and he said something didn't feel right. No one was responding as he was calling out, so he turned around and started walking back to his plane. He looked behind him and saw that there was a bear trying to sneak up on him. He went to his plane, took off, and from the air, he saw the bear standing on top of what looked like human remains. He flew over several times, but this only made the bear eat faster. He ended up calling the park rangers. A large male grizzly bear known as Bear 141 was killed by the park rangers as they were attempting to retrieve the bodies. They also killed a smaller adolescent bear who charged them. The first bear had human body parts in its stomach. The second bear was eaten by another animal, so tests were never run on it. For the last 5 years of taking these trips, Treadwell made video recordings. The park rangers found his video camera. It had a 6-minute recording which captured the attack, but there was only audio. The lens cap was still on the camera. It stopped recording when it ran out of tape. The recording started after the attack was already in progress and ended before the attack was over. It has never been released publicly, but the authorities and some others have heard it. The tape begins with sounds of Treadwell screaming that he is being attacked and calling to his girlfriend for help. She was still inside of the tent. He said, "Come out here, I'm being killed out here." She tells him to play dead. This works temporarily. The bear leaves, but then the bear returns. She says at this point he should fight back. Treadwell asks his girlfriend to get a pan and hit the bear, but evidently the bear was not too concerned by being struck with a pan. Treadwell then tells his girlfriend to get away, but she didn't do it. The bear drags Treadwell's body away, but then returns to kill her after she screams. It seems as though the couple was in the tent that evening, heard the bear, and then Treadwell went to confront the bear alone. If he had not, it probably would not have attacked. Now moving to the mental health and personality factors. I'm not aware of any formal diagnosis ever being given to Treadwell. He said that he had been dependent on substances, as I mentioned. Treadwell said that nothing helped him to stop using. The substances were killing him until he discovered the land of bears. He believed the bears needed a caretaker, so he took this role. The bears helped him to be a better person. There were reports from people who knew him suggesting that he had depression. He took antidepressants but then stopped, saying that he needed the highs and the lows. So this could have been depression or perhaps something like bipolar disorder. It also could have been nothing. Again, there's not a lot of information about this. There's also this theory that perhaps his behavior rose to the level of being delusional, which I'll talk about in a moment. First, let's take a look at his potential personality profile. I remember the big 5 personality traits through the acronym OCEAN: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So with Treadwell, we see high openness to experience. He was creative, artistic, sensitive, theatrical, and intellectually curious, but not intelligent. He had low conscientiousness. He broke the law repeatedly, acted before thinking, and was not cautious. For example, he failed to carry a firearm or any other type of weapon when he was clearly in a dangerous environment. As far as extroversion, he appeared to be high in this trait. He was outgoing, assertive, and sensation-seeking. With agreeableness, we see a low level. He had a distrust for humans. Perhaps a little bit of that distrust for bears would have been handy. Also, he was not modest. In some of the footage, we see grandiose behavior, like he wanted to be the center of attention. As far as neuroticism, his level was above average. He appeared to be depressed and angry. As I mentioned before, there's this theory that Treadwell was delusional. There are other theories as well, namely he was narcissistic, so much so that this behavior bordered on delusional, and he was paranoid. Let's take a look at some of his characteristics that could shed light on these theories. Treadwell co-wrote a book. He was featured on Dateline NBC, the Discovery Channel, and The Late Show with David Letterman. On that particular appearance, Letterman asked him if he would be eaten by a bear. Treadwell responded no. We see that Treadwell liked attention. He wanted to look as though he was a hero, saving the bear from poachers, even though poaching was not a problem in that area. He also made it seem as though he was alone in the wilderness, even when he was accompanied by various women. Treadwell said he felt more comfortable around bears than humans. He hated civilization. It seems as though he had some trouble establishing romantic relationships with women. He said, "I can't understand why girls don't want to be with me for a long period of time. I have a nice personality." He viewed himself as a fun guy and a great guy. In a particularly strange recording, he recited a number of expletives when referring to the National Park Service. He was particularly aggressive and arrogant in that video, almost like he was trying to prove he was tough. He called them losers and said he beat them, when in reality, they were trying to protect the bears from him. Treadwell did not understand the difference between a domesticated animal and a wild animal. He believed he had some type of special bond with the bears, almost like they were humans and would relate that way. He said he proved himself as being able to hold his ground. 10 days before his death, a bear charged him, but stopped. Treadwell said, "I know the language of a bear." So again, he's trying to make it seem like he has some type of special relationship that keeps him safe. He used to repeatedly tell the bears that he loved them, and he would sing to them. Treadwell appeared to have a death wish. Even with the special relationship he thought he had with the bears, he acknowledged that the bears could eat him. He knew they were dangerous. Treadwell recorded an entry in his diary indicating that Huguenard believed he was hell-bent on destruction. It was her intention to leave him for good. She was going to start a new job upon her return to California. Putting this all together, Treadwell's behavior seems to align more with narcissism and intentional recklessness than delusions. Perhaps he had something more like subclinical delusional thinking. He created this narcissistic fantasy where he was saving the bears from threats like poachers, using the skills that he had, like being sensitive and talking to the bears. Paranoia was necessary to build the fantasy. There had to be bad guys for him to be the good guy. He thought the bears were saving him too, like they were meant to be together. He had found a home. He was fulfilling his destiny. In a sense, he found his family. It would seem as though Treadwell was trying to become something he was not. He wanted people who had rejected him to admire him. He didn't fit into human society, so he found a new society, which he believed would never reject him. In this society, he was necessary. He was important. He was the only thing maintaining its survival. His fantasy came to an end abruptly. In his final moments, which were undoubtedly horrible, he authorized the use of a weapon against the bears, namely that frying pan. It's reasonable to believe that if he had a firearm, he would have used it. During those last few minutes, his fantasy came crashing down. He was forced to face the reality that he was nothing more than food to that bear. That was the relationship. Ironically, Treadwell claimed to be in a war against people who wanted to kill bears, yet his actions resulted in 2 bears being killed. What lessons can be learned from this case? Traits associated with narcissism like overconfidence, arrogance, and grandiosity are dangerous not only to the person who exhibits the traits, but to others. Amy Huguenard was not narcissistic as far as we know, yet she died just the same. She was too connected to someone who was dangerous. The second lesson, sometimes people create relationships in their mind that don't exist. Treadwell thought the bear would find him credible, but the word he was looking for was edible. Fantasy may take away the pain, but it does not actually alter physical consequences. Those are my thoughts on Timothy Treadwell. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.